Hello, welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. We are going to be talking today about episode 204 of the TV show. It's time for us to actually enter the Sea of Monsters. It's time for us to link up with Clarisse, to really, really fascinatingly make a sandwich. So much is happening, and you're just gonna have to stick around.
Welcome back, everybody, to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. If you're new here, we've been around. Check us out. We like to talk about Percabeth. We like to talk about Luke. We used to talk about Western civilization, but that got cut from the show, so we're not really worrying about that now. This week, Clarisse blows everything up. Tyson blows up. Your jaws were probably dropped like ours were at the end of this episode, especially if you were watching it on a TV and not on our dark laptop screens with a watermark. You probably were even more jaw dropped than we were. We have a very special guest, returning friend of the podcast. It's KYLE PRUE here to help us talk about this episode. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, what's up, you guys?
Hey.
This is my fifth. Who's to say? Sixth? Who knows? I have been on this podcast more than any other, including my own.
I was gonna say, including your own.
So yeah, you know, I'm happy to be here. Happy to discuss the ep.
If you're new to Seaweed Brain podcast, my guess is you're not new to KYLE PRUE. He's that guy on the internet who tells you things you can say to piss off men. He also, what you may not know, is the author of a young adult fantasy series. Tell us about that.
Yes. When I was in high school, I wrote a book called The Sparks. And then over the course of my college experience, I wrote two more books, The Flames and the Ashes. Sort of a, little through line there, little metaphor happening right on the outside of the book. Yeah, so I'm well versed in YA. Read a lot of it. I wrote a lot of it, and I don't write it anymore. But hey, never say never.
Well, now you write a web series, right? Direct, produce, star in.
Yes, well, yes, I do a lot of that stuff. I showrun a show called Rabbit on YouTube. You gotta check out Rabbit. It's about a task rabbit who only does jobs that are embarrassing or illegal. So go do that after the ep, of course.
Yes. We have so many other things I would love to plug for KYLE PRUE, but you're gonna have to stick around to the end of the episode to hear me plug the rest of KYLE PRUE's projects.
Yeah, that's what they're sticking around for, is to see what I've got going on.
They are. The people love KYLE PRUE. Founding member of Seaweed Brain podcast is what I'm going to refer to.
Yeah.
The people who came on in 2020.
Early and foundational guests.
Yeah.
When they paint the Declaration of Independence, sort of the Seaweed Brain podcast, that I will be in the corner,
right next to Ola Bimpeamokomowo.
Yeah. And we're voting, and our hands are up, and we're approving the motion.
Percabeth. You know what? Let's thank our sustaining patrons, Izzy, James, and Ellen. Thank you for helping us do what we do here and on the Patreon every week with watch-alongs, etc. There's a lot happening in this episode. And at the same time, I feel like this is almost the easiest episode to discuss. It feels very contained. It feels like a brilliant mid-season finale.
Yeah. Well, we, of course, binged the first 4 episodes because that's what the screener situation was. And this is where we were left off. I felt very complete.
Not to jump to the end, but I think it does kind of end with, everyone trying to pull off a huge feat.
Yes.
I think we're trying to see how strong Percy has gotten. I'm like, can you just steer a boat with your powerful mind and body? And the answer is no. The answer is not really.
The answer is actually no, which is great. It is so brilliant because this episode is all about Annabeth's anxiety about making a mistake, and also Clarisse's anxiety about failing this trial. And what ends up happening? We may low-key fail. We basically fail. And which is what happens in the book. The ironclad blows up and we are then spread out amongst the sea of monsters. But it is really satisfying to experience this really dark, tense, anxious, spinning out flashback memory episode and then have it end in this horrifying, gigantic set piece event. We knew this was not going to go well, huh, guys? But at the same time, balancing all of that really sad angst with the quippiest, best dialogue we've gotten so far in the season, in the show, in the series, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Structurally, it's giving a lot of what we got out of the 4th episode of the first season, which you might remember ends with Percy falling maybe to his presumably death out the side of the Gateway Arch and then being grabbed by a gigantic CG column of water. Similar thing of like, oh, maybe we have died. This is the closest we've come to completely failing everything, but also just like a CG impressive set piece thing that is of such a scale and budget that we're going to have to essentially emotionally, energetically reset ourselves for the second half of the season and sort of like, bring it back down, bring it back down.
Yeah. I love the idea. Thank you for bringing up season 1, episode 4, because our jaws were also dropped after that sequence in which the giant column of water comes up to rescue Percy. And I love the idea that in a TV show like this, in a YA fantasy TV show, the rules of action set pieces are the same as the rules of songs and musicals. That like we sing when we can no longer speak, and we have to build up to the big CGI. We CGI when we
Yeah.
can no longer tell the story.
Musical theater theory. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we got so like everybody is on the verge of tears in this episode, except for Percy. He's having a good time, guys. Percy's having a great time in this episode. He's the only one who's having a good time. He's talking to his dad. But for everybody else, they're in such an emotional place that like we had nothing else to do except for CGI a gigantic water cyclone and then break that entire freaking ship apart. We had to do it emotionally.
I know, and we didn't even have that horrible 2-chunk release schedule to justify it. We just, for the love of the game and actual television pacing, put this here.
We dropped it. Yes. The big problem of this episode, in my estimation, was this trial is about hard choices. Who do we sacrifice to win the battle? Right? Because that's not only what Clarisse is going to decide via Scylla or Charybdis, but it's also Annabeth thinking about Percy in a sense. Like, who is going to be sacrificed in this big
in the great prophecy?
Yeah.
And of course, lest we forget, we haven't mentioned it yet, the flashback.
It's the flashback episode. Wake me up inside.
The flashback to me is...
I chime in with the haven't you ever heard of?
This is the thing I have to ask you guys about. So the flashback, they're like, all right, this was years ago, and Annabeth and Luke and Talia are trying to get to camp. I think this show does a little bit of a disservice to itself by not recasting Luke as a younger person and recasting Annabeth as a toddler. Like, is a little bit, to me, like all I could my eyes would not like I couldn't focus on anything else.
You weren't gagging for the bang?
We love the bang. The bang is remarkable. The bang is incredible. The bang does not.
It wasn't the bang of youth for you.
Yeah, no.
Did de-age?
The bang, if anything, aged him a little bit to me. Because
that's the bang of Bushwick. That's the bang of 30 years old in Bushwick.
See, as somebody who consumes a lot of media out of East Asia, I am very accustomed to the storytelling technique, the genre convention of the bang of youth, which is very. It is strong. It's present. Those of you, if you are not a common listener of Asian media, you might have seen the film Past Lives, which is not Asian media. It is American. However, it is one of the most, I think, standoffish uses of the bang of youth in recent memory. They're the same actor playing himself at age 21 with a big old
just
flat
a bang
just all across his face and a hoodie like they had for Charlie.
I will say that I had a prediction when we did our Sea of Monsters orientation that due to the way that John Steinberg does storytelling, especially in later seasons, using flashbacks to reveal things about certain characters that completely change our perception of that character, the relationships, and the world. Dare I say I was right about this. Teeing up into the Thalia Grace reveal and having these flashbacks portray her as somebody who, in Annabeth's mind, she couldn't have imagined her defying the gods, and yet she is trying to think through this and reimagine. If Thalia would be on Luke's side, then what side should Annabeth be on? I don't entirely get the sense that she is at that point in her questioning yet in this episode, but I do think we are like on the way to getting her there, to that question. I think right now she's too stuck in the, wow, I didn't even know her, and the guilt and reliving the guilt of the sacrifice to think about the secondary question. But I think we're going to get there eventually.
I don't think that the show has at this point taught us how to watch the flashbacks as far as the gap between what Annabeth is thinking and what we are able to see because it's television and we are not in a person's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like we, as the viewers, very importantly, come out of these flashbacks thinking, oh, probably Luke was right and Thalia would have been on his side if it had been sort of like a clean, smooth trajectory. If we just
Yeah.
yanked 14-year-old Thalia out of that flashback and said, which team are you on right now? It's probably Team Luke. But it's not clear at this point if Annabeth is also, to what extent she's drawing that conclusion, to what extent that she's
Yes.
getting the material out of her recollections from when she was 7 years old
Yes.
to go to that
Yes.
place.
Also, on Kyle's point, it's also not clear what age everybody is. And I think that that's fine. In the book, I know I just reread the Demigod Diaries. Annabeth is 7, Thalia is 12, and Luke is 14 when they all link up.
Right. Well, because there's a couple like within the Sea of Monsters, I feel like specifically like a couple like tricky wickets that like I think like the Disney Plus show like either chooses not to engage with or chooses to sort of massage into something else. Like recasting one of them and not the other made me be like, okay, well, if that is something that we are going to like pursue like textually within the story, I don't like it now.
Oh, yeah.
Like it becomes a real kind of like grooming thing a little bit, I feel like.
I think that the interesting thing about this relationship between Luke and Annabeth, and particularly the "Do you love me" at the end of The Last Olympian, is that I think it was always intended to be a situation in which Luke cared for Annabeth as a sister and more than anyone in the entire world, and that Annabeth had very complicated emotional ties to Luke as like a father figure, as a counselor, as a brother, as like the symbol of love in her life for most of her childhood.
But I think also as a crush. Like, I think it's okay that like he's old, she's not old, and she
Yes.
kind of has a crush on him, and he
Yes.
doesn't
Yeah.
really
That's not how he
directly
thinks
engage
about
with
it.
that, but also maybe is a little bit messy.
Yeah.
And like not actually messy, but is exploiting the fact that she hasn't resolved her emotional
Yeah.
state in that relationship.
In season 5, I need him to turn to the camera and say,
Say,
"There's nothing uncouth.
Yes.
My feelings for you are completely platonic."
Yes.
yeah,
I think what's interesting about the TV show is that we aren't going to be left with that ambiguity at the end. I think that it's much easier for us to see like through the arc of Leah and Charlie's performances what that relationship actually is. Like I don't think we're
Yeah.
going to have those questions that we had at the end of the book just
Yeah.
all we're getting is the dialogue on the page without the nuance.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, I think, like I was saying, like, there's like a few tricky wickets. Like we talked about the Confederate soldiers on the boat thing.
Yes.
Of
course not.
Yeah, no, like, of course they didn't do that. But thinking back on it, being like, wow, but Rick did it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I do still like I like think back and I'm like, yeah, Rick, wow. You
Rick
know,
said Ares is that guy.
there would have been no
Yeah.
way within this show, I think, like, there's no line of dialogue that could possibly lampshade it hard enough to like justify its inclusion.
Yes. I think the answer on the Annabeth Luke thing is that there's a brief allusion to like one of the Grey sisters says
Yes.
something in the first episode about a boyfriend who is tall in her dreams. Although that is, of course, not like Luke's perspective does not enter that anywhere. And
Yeah.
also, the Grey sisters are famously. Is there a word for a straight Fujoshi? They're shippers. The Grey
They're
sisters
hags.
are
They're personal
are
hags.
hag shippers
Yeah.
who are trying to
They're
create
us.
drama out of nowhere. The real answer is going to be coming in the next episode when we go to the Sirens Island and we really see
if Luke
what
is in that
happens.
vision. Yeah. I don't think that the show, I think it's okay to talk about this though, because the show, like with this Grey Sisters quote, is not shying away from the idea that Annabeth's emotions towards Luke are like weird and confusing. But at the same time, that is so not ever going to be the perspective of Luke. And I don't think ever was the perspective of Luke in the books, but I do think that the books left room for people to read that.
And this flashback, I think, is also going to help us. To me, the dynamic of the flashback is so clearly family coded, almost nuclear family coded, dare we say.
Yes. Let's talk about that first flashback. The finding the Kalagia bracelet in the Monster Donut box. Shout out to We Were Right, Monster Donuts cut. The Monster Donut and the Hydra.
Their name still appears. We still speak your name, Monster Donut.
Yeah. The anti-capitalism metaphor isn't going to play.
Yeah. Ronald skated by.
I guess I am like interested if you guys have an opinion insofar as like what we're deciding to lose and what we're deciding to keep. Like, does this feel like a little bit more of like a like straight edge version of the books? Would you say that it feels like a little like less complicated?
I think that the showrunners of the Percy Jackson show are really, as they will tell you endlessly, they are trying to tell a family story, by which we don't necessarily mean a story for children. It's a story about relationships between parents and children
Yeah.
and the complexities of like that. That's the primary valence they're looking at this through. So I think in order to service that and not have it too much also be like, well, you can't have a good relationship with your dad because he's actually a fascist
Right.
who is like pulling the strings of everything. They've chosen to lean further into this first narrative in which there are no gods that are not redeemable, I think, at any point, because all the Olympians are people who at some point we are going to be okay with all of these kids having better relationships with in the future. I
Yeah.
feel like which is tough because I don't know. We obviously love the capitalist stuff and we love the Manifest Destiny stuff, but maybe we'll see it next season. Who can say? I mean, the Hunters, I think we'll get the environmentalism angle at least, but like the capitalism, the corporate sprawl.
Speaking of season 1, episode 4, though, that was the one mention that we got of the sort of manifest destiny from
Yeah.
Grover. So I do think that there's room for a little bit more of that in the next book as he's searching for Pan and we're with the Hunters and we have this naturalism arc.
But it's not going to be as clean of a metaphor. It's not going to be like
No.
Zeus is the force
Capitalism.
of United States capitalism
No.
and the military holdings around the world.
Yeah, I think that we trimmed the language around Western civilization intentionally to avoid parallels to, unfortunately, what are the common modern day political movements that like to harken back to Greek and Roman civilization.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think in general too, like the early 2000s, I think were a much maybe simpler time politically. Like, I feel like when Rick was writing these books,
Bush was president.
Yeah, right. And you'd be like,
these kids don't even remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
These kids weren't even alive.
We outlined the entirety of like Bush era politics in the Seaweed Brain podcast. It's an 18-hour podcast episode.
It was a time when we were able to have like a national supermajority that was primarily motivated by anti-war sentiment. And that's just not really what all is going on and what we're all talking about right now.
Well, I think that it was like, I think like culturally bipartisan in a way that like now I think it's structurally bipartisan. But I mean, like, I feel like now there are so many niche political movements. And like, I think that reading Percy Jackson as a kid, it's interesting how Luke over the years, I feel like, has like gained political favor like amongst like the readership over the years, because like when you're reading it and you're like a kid, you're like, not the way things are done. And then you get like a little older and you're like, you know what? Yeah. Burn it down.
Maybe violence is necessary to upset the status quo. What about the silent violence of the status quo?
Exactly. What about the silent violence of the status quo? And this book is for tweens primarily, but you're never too young to learn.
I think the other secret third answer that we haven't been mentioning is that the kids have had their best reception ever at Brazil Comic Con, and that this is Walt Disney for the world show in which a family story maybe translates across borders. But
which is all to say that's why we get a cereal box of Monster Donut and not the Hydro Monster Donut scene.
Right.
Yes, Monster Donut is not secretly Starbucks.
Yes.
It is Kellogg. Which
it is Kellogg.
Has its own, but yeah.
Yes, Kelloggina, the goddess of stealth, as baby Luke hands baby Annabeth. We talked about this, I feel like, when Azriel was playing baby Percy. They really are like baby Toad, baby Mario. That is the exact size that they are. It really feels like Mario Kart baby Annabeth in this scene. Luke gives her the bracelet of Kelloggina, goddess of stealth, and says, "You hide while wearing this. Monsters can't find you," which is so brilliant because that is what her hat does when she eventually does get her magic item.
Yes, that is her magical item destiny.
And then they hug. To speak to your comment about the nuclear family.
Yeah.
This moment, especially this little like hug with a little pat on the backpack, I was like, oh, it's giving dad. It really does feel like found family in the most aggressively nuclear way possible. These are all kids without parents, and they have assumed this nuclear structure with each other.
Yes. And you'll note also that the whole time they're doing this, they are not the whole time, but a lot of the conversation is about Thalia. There is this way in which their dynamic is so clearly constructed as all three of them throughout all of the scenes, that their decision making, their thought processes are all about them as a sort of indivisible unit.
Yeah.
Also, of course, it gives us a great tee up for her to make her first on-screen appearance ever.
There's a 4-letter word that I cannot say on this podcast to describe how she comes into slay this scene, but she is absolutely incredible.
Slaying.
She is
She's slaying it fiercely.
She's slaying it fiercely, serving mother in our nuclear found family dynamic. And I do want to shout out the fact that the showrunners at San Diego Comic-Con, when they answered Emily and Phoebe at Monster Donut's question about Thalia, they were like, as soon as we saw her, we were like, oh, this is the girl. And I have to say that as soon as Carter and I met Tamara, we were like, oh, that's Thalia. Like, it is so clear.
Yes.
It is so clear. Even especially in, I think it's the final flashback in the episode where she goes, that's where we're going, even if we don't like it. I was like, oh my God. Yes.
It's having really good posture, but then like having a little bit of like a thing where she pulls her face asymmetrically.
The whole punk look is great. I'm really eager for like a whole new generation of fans of the story to like see punk Thalia in real life. It's so special to like be able to have that visual. See black punk Thalia, absolutely.
The look is incredible. The movement of her hair as she's doing her dramatic running is so powerful. She's like able to do the thing of like taking up a lot of space while still being like very visibly a child.
She has a great skill, Tamara, as an actress of she's very young, but she does feel very old and very powerful. Like at the same time, like when she comes running in, like in full command mode, like they found us. I was like, oh wow, she's the general of this army in addition to being the mother of this family.
Yeah.
And overall, I think I want to shout out Leah. Her performance in this episode is really, really great as she's remembering and recollecting and looking at the bracelet on the ironclad. You can tell that she's locked in and she's processing as she's going through these flashbacks and telling. It's hard to tell stories like this in dialogue. It's very difficult to not just like recount things like a list. And I think she does a really good job of finding an action through all of those statements from the past when she's telling Percy the story.
Yeah.
This moment that she has where she talks about the human error, you know, that she can like game plan everything out, but there are some stuff that she just truly can't control. I remember like in the moment, like locking in as a viewer a little bit and being like, oh yeah, like, you know, like they wrote the hell out of this scene.
Absolutely.
And we had talked about Erica that the scene's a little uneven where like she delivers just an incredible monologue, you know, like that really kind of like gets to the heart of like her concerns, her fears as like a like tactician. And then Percy's like, you're the best. Like, I believe in you. Like, no worries. Like
he's not going through it this episode.
He goes into so many scenes just kind of being disarming by being kind of like cute and wholesome.
Yeah.
Like he keeps coming and being like, we're buddies. And people are like, no, I hate you. And he's like, we're buddies.
Yeah. This really is, for Percy, this is the I'm spinning like a ballerina. Well, every single other person on the ship, Tyson included, is like, put the coal in the engines. Yeah, it's no good for everybody. And he's like, I trust you. It only took me 2 days to see how special you are. And she's like, please leave me alone. She's like, can you help me?
She's like, I'm processing my childhood trauma right now. Like that's really cute, but
I wanted to say, like, in particular, the human choices monologue at the end of this episode, as we've been tracking this arc for Annabeth and also this little relationship arc for Percabeth from the beginning of the season, if not from the Tunnel of Love episode in season 1, of Percy trying to relate to Annabeth through normal kid stuff and Annabeth being like, ooh, I'm actually just a demigod. I'm not a normal kid. She goes out to try it. She doesn't like it. There's tension between them because she doesn't know how to tell Percy. And then she tells him, I didn't like that stuff. You and I are not the same. You can be a normal kid. I can't be a normal kid. And we get that information. He tries to push again in episode 203. We don't have time to go to the pool deck, so we don't get to see that. And then here in this episode, she doesn't have to say it directly to us for us to be able to understand that the reason why she has like framed her entire life in this way of I am a demigod and not a human normal child is because it's the human mistakes in her mind that led to Thalia's death and Thalia's sacrifice.
Yeah.
The idea of a 7-year-old child of Athena, she's 7 years old. Like, how are you blaming yourself for being a 7-year-old child? But of course she is, because that's who she is. Blaming herself for these human choices she made as a 7-year-old kid that got Thalia killed. And so then she rejects humanity and she says, I'm just a demigod. I will never again make a human mistake that will lead to another person being hurt.
We're kind of at a point in the TV show where we've diverged maybe far enough that it is decreasingly useful and interesting to point out divergences from the book. But some people might not be tracking that this is a meaningful one. It might have been a while for you. When we're talking about the Annabeth Luke Thalia and Grover description in the book. It's all flashback, and the point of the story to us is supposed to be that it's a Cyclops. A Cyclops was to blame. It cost them a lot of time, and it slowed us down just enough that when we were trying to cross over into camp, the Furies caught up to us and got Thalia. That's the book's version of events. In this version of events, we're like opening the question about whether or not we go to camp, which is not something that we've ever explicitly had described in the books. It is not even part of Luke's stated rationale or not part of his pitch to anybody. It's not really presented, I think, even as a question for him. And then we also get then this layer that comes out of that of Annabeth blaming herself, which is wholly new. I fear that I need to say that this reminded me very strongly of Once Upon a Time from the golden first season of that show when it was fun and tight and all the storylines interconnected into each other. Obviously, we know she's wrong, but we get this kind of lead up to this claim and this trauma that she's been holding on, such that we're like given a way to experience the gravity of it, while also when she delivers this line about it, understanding that I guess the real trauma of it essentially is how deep into this delusion she is and how core this is to her. There's something especially heartbreaking about her like retaining this and like losing the ability to critically reevaluate this huge guilt and blame of survivorship that she's put onto herself because it was from her early childhood, because she's like lost contact with the people who would be able to check her on it and change the way she's thinking about it.
Yeah. In the books and in the musical, the guilt over Thalia's death comes from Grover, because Grover was her protector and he failed to protect her. But now we're getting the guilt of Annabeth because Grover's not here, like because it makes so much sense that Annabeth would have this guilt over Thalia, because it is like something that she can't get to after Luke yelled at her in a way that he has never yelled at anyone before and told her that Thalia would have loved the opportunity to destroy Olympus. She has to get through this PTSD guilt spiral before she can get to, but who actually was this girl? What would she have wanted? Like, this is the like necessary emotional trauma, generational trauma, women's trauma episode.
It is generational trauma.
It's generational trauma that we have to move through, much like Jamie Lee Curtis, in order to get to the question that I want answered, which is, what is Thalia going to choose? What really would she choose, and what does Annabeth think that she would really choose?
Interesting that the point of the flashbacks, or like a little bit in the book, is to explain why Annabeth is so hostile towards Tyson. Right?
Yes.
It's to explain a prejudice that we have decided to mostly write out of the series.
Yeah. We have 98% nixed that whole kind of angle. I think, like that's another kind of like one of those trickier things that we're like, you know what, like let's and I do think that is sort of like that's much deeper. Like I feel like they've found like a deeper vein there with that in particular. To be like, oh, like this is actually like a much more complicated feeling.
Yeah. There was one moment on the deck that is just an Annabeth Tyson scene in this episode. Did we all see this? Where I was a little bit clutching something. It's like, oh, is the Cyclops prejudice back? Where it's just the two of them and she's kind of mean to him.
Remember what Craig said about how they didn't start the season being like, let's cut the Cyclops prejudice. Like it began there and it just kind of slowly diminished as it became evident that there were more interesting things to focus the tension on.
Yeah.
I think that it makes sense still that Annabeth is like wary of him, given that Cyclops have attacked her before and technically he's a quote-unquote monster and she has drank the Camp Half-Blood Kool-Aid, so she sees him as a monster.
But I think it's also totally possible to look at that scene and say like, oh, he's less competent. Why is he holding her precious childhood thing that she thought she just threw away? Relationship beef.
I also can imagine being in a writer's room and like looking at the whiteboard and it saying like Annabeth racist question mark and being like, all right, like I don't know if I want to like write a scene where my character is making such an unreasonable decision.
Yeah.
I think like sometimes you're like, I feel like I could service the actor better by searching for something a little bit wonkier, like a little more, nuanced.
Yeah. And Annabeth also, like, as far as Cyclops prejudice, she's very smart. I don't think that she is passing judgment significantly on Tyson. At this point, she has spent a bunch of days with him and she has other stuff to worry about.
She has other stuff to worry about. It's true.
Way more concerned about processing her trauma than she is about pushing Tyson off the side of the ironclad.
And lest we forget, the reason why, from an overall book narrative, lessons for children, fable type of perspective, the reason why she has the Cyclops prejudice is for her to get over the Cyclops prejudice by the end of the book. We're supposed to learn together a lesson about discrimination and about judging people based on other people who look or talk like them, right? And that's still obviously valuable. I think we're learning that lesson in several other ways in this show.
I think Luke's
Not
teaching
the
us
least
that
of
lesson.
which, one of which is obviously that Luke is explicitly textually saying, don't be racist to monsters.
It makes a lot of sense to take the arc in the book for Annabeth, this entire book, which is basically let me not be prejudiced against Cyclops, into let me work through my trauma so that when Thalia shows up at the end of the book, we have this really well understood idea of what happened between these two characters and how important Thalia's emotional decisions are going to be in the Titan's Curse.
And how the two of them could plausibly pick Luke by the end of the season.
Exactly.
And I also think that, talking about like politics at the time when the book came out versus when the show is coming out, like I think like in like, the early 2000s being like, hey kids, don't be racist. That's not good. Kids were like, okay, cool. Good to know. And I think like now you're like, don't be racist. And they're like, racism. We've been online long enough. All the children are now gay and abolitionist, at least all the ones who are probably watching the Percy Jackson show. So I guess probably like,
but let's hope that's right. I'm
just going to believe that's true.
Speaking of prejudice, I want to shout out Daniel in this episode. He's been doing this stunning physical work with Tyson this whole season, but we couldn't really like see it in this episode. There's just like a lot of shots of his whole body moving around on the screen, in particular after the burp fight when they are chasing each other down the beach.
Running.
Daniel, you genius. I saw your physical acting work. I saw you have your arms outstretched, waddling like a toddler, almost like a giraffe that doesn't know how to walk yet, giving us this sense that he's very young.
Was it not giving not Boss Baby, the DreamWorks film, but Boss Baby, the Saturday Night Live recurring character for a little bit of the late 2010s? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's Beck Bennett.
Yes. On the Ironclad, after his conversation with Percy at the helm of the ship, he's like, if we're going that fast, I better go check on the boilers. And he like kind of like waddles off as well, like not at a run, but at like a quick waddle. And I was like, oh my God, he's so far back on the screen right now. And my eye is just like tracking him because it's so specific and it works.
It's like well. Is it like shoulder moves with hip forward at the same time or something?
I think it's like a baby giraffe is what I would characterize it
as.
It's
like big body, bad balance.
It's
the 4Bs, big body, bad balance.
The classic, that's what they teach you in acting school.
Yeah. That's how you play a Cyclops.
I will relatedly also shout out, while Annabeth is doing her little memory journey with the charm bracelet in the sewers, Percy and Tyson have this scene on the beach, and there's this shot that I cannot stop thinking about that is Percy sitting down next to Tyson on like a log on the beach. And there's something about, even though Walker is, of course, like a foot shorter than Daniel, maybe Daniel is very, very large, tall person.
Body bad balance.
The physicality of that, they're able to communicate somehow still, like just silently, that like Percy is the older brother with the like way that he is sort of like leaning in, even though like the visage is like, you're not even looking at their faces. It's just from behind you're getting sibling dynamic with like tiny older brother and large younger brother.
Yeah, that also takes us into a really epic stunt moment where they just completely explode.
This was so funny.
Clarisse explodes their ship and they go flying.
Did we, like, tonally, weren't we a little bit like, oh, in the span of like 3 minutes, we have like Annabeth like processing all of her trauma in the sewers into
brothers burping,
the burp fight, and then the burp fight gets interrupted by a huge explosion that throws both of them like feet overhead.
When the boat blew up, I was like, what could this possibly be? I was like, did someone put a car bomb in their and then they like pan over the big boat. They like it blew up in a way that I was like, is someone trying to assassinate Percy Jackson?
Did we love this epic like fight between Percy and Clarisse that was teased so much in the trailer ended up being cut totally short by Annabeth being like, we got to get a move on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, cut the bullshit.
She was like,
I'm killing your crew.
I killed your navigator, so let's go.
Completely, certainly in violation of all of the honorable norms of one-on-one combat across Greek, antiquity, medieval traditions, everything.
Also, the Geneva Convention.
Yes. They were silent passerbys who were not armed enemy combatants.
They were not involved in active combat. It was a low honor move, but it was the right move.
It felt like an Odysseus move.
Yes.
That's I think that is the journey we're getting from Annabeth this time. Is this like, this is dark Annabeth. This is her saying like, well, maybe everything I knew about my childhood is wrong. Do I have a moral core anymore? Like, what basis do I have to scaffold my decision making? There's nothing at this point. Like, all I'm doing is this quest, so we're just gonna get it done. I will murder these. I mean, I guess of course they're undead. They're maybe zombie, ghosts, monster, something. They dust, which is like a whole fascinating metaphysical. Like, I guess the show is trying to remind us like these are not living human beings. They are maybe monster adjacent entities, something. But that's what I was getting from it. This episode, I think, for Annabeth, it's about throwing out the rules of ethical conduct that she hasn't actually interrogated before. Right? And this is part of that. This is like a very aesthetically striking way of saying like she's not just going to do what she's been doing this whole time because somebody told her to.
Yeah. It's funny too that like Clarisse is like, oh God, don't do that. And she's like, what? They're already dead. And she's like, no, they think that they're going to Elysium. Like we find out, that Clarisse is sort of running a little bit of a scam here. You know, she's employed these people based on the idea of future returns that will or will not come.
Yeah. I think MLM Core is right in the sense that I think at some level she's also lied to herself and convinced herself enough that it's as much a scam on herself as it is on anybody else, I feel like. Don't we get that sense that she believes that somehow she's going to make this work for these guys, even though she shouldn't believe it?
It feels like startup shit.
Yeah. Yes. She's drinking her own supply.
It feels like, like when you're in a startup and you're like, it's going to be able to do this, 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 and this. And people are like, will it? And you're like, yeah, we'll see. Like,
she's like, it will if my daddy provides the funding. And Aries says that they can go to Elysium.
And that's on real startup.
Clarisse just hit 30 under 30, and within a year she'll be richer in jail. That's what's going on in this show.
My favorite joke delivery of, I think, the whole season so far comes in this scene after Annabeth kills the three, Annabeth names like, basically, this is what the three skills we have. Clarisse says, I have three better high-skilled workers than you already on my crew. Annabeth kills them. And then Clarisse is frantically playing it pretty straight, like going to all the remaining people and being like, can you navigate? Can you do the engine? And Mitch from Blockbuster comes through with the line was, I believe, I only do inventory, right? And I don't think children will even be able to get that. Like, does this 18-year-old know what inventory is? Do we have enough physical things left in the world that people interface with that they know what inventory is?
Yeah, now robots do inventory.
It's a joke for us old. We're in the fourth quadrant now.
It's a joke for us olds. Exactly. I mean, it's a joke about Blockbuster.
Yeah.
You gotta layer the Blockbuster guy with another joke about before times.
Do kids know what Blockbuster is now? Like even just like intertextually or culturally? No.
Literally no. I don't think so. Like Netflix is old media for them, I feel.
I haven't spoken to a child in
do we not think so?
A long, long, long time. We don't have any of the same interests.
The only children we speak to are Walker and Leah.
Yeah. Right.
Actually.
The most recent 16-year-old I spoke to was Walker Scobell.
Yeah.
If Mitch from Blockbuster wasn't in this scene, we would lose so much of the juxtaposition that we really, really like. So just doing something so simple as throwing Mitch into the scene and saying, here's the real modern world implication of putting these mythological rules onto the modern day society. Bam, you get Mitch from Blockbuster. That's perfect. That satisfies my itch for the OG Riordan tone that we have been seeking.
Very important tonal balance.
Yeah, and the implication that he died in the streaming wars means that Netflix killed Mitch.
Ted Sarandos. Where were you?
Mitch out with a garrote wire.
Does that mean is like Warner Brothers also going to end up in the fields of asphodel now that Netflix is also destroying them?
David, we'll see you in the fields of punishment.
David,
you
We'll see Zaslav in the Fields of Punishment.
Wow. Anything else from the scene? One more thing. I think we need to shout out Dior's stunt work. We're going to talk more with the stunts team.
Oh God,
soon.
It's so good.
Hopefully we will talk to Dior soon. This is maybe a good time for us to plug some stuff from our set visit, because a lot of that set visit was spent basically being babysat by Dior, who is just hanging out, explaining everything to us. And for a good chunk of it, fully trying to teach multiple different elderly podcasters how to work a spear. And she was working that spear in this tiny hallway with us in the little props gallery. It was very impressive. And her stunt work in this scene is I'm going to say it, I like my favorite thing that I've seen so far as like action stuff from the kids.
Yeah.
She has so much dexterity. It really like completes the feel of it for me. And specifically like the idea of like spinning a spear being a perfect analogy for Clarisse's journey in life, where like it's something that reflects a lot of training, but it is ultimately not that useful in battle, right? Like when you're spinning a spear, it's not because that's how you kill somebody. It's because you were trying to impress them with your feats of physical prowess.
Yeah. It's an aura move.
It's exactly.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The spear is an aura weapon is something Kyle
we
and
were
I
watching
have been
it and we
discussing.
were like, the spear is kind of the weapon with the most aura, because you can do kind of cool flip stuff with it, you know?
Over the head. Yeah, the scale of the physicality that she can achieve based on just like breadth of movement that she gets out of this humongous. Yeah.
It's cool to see her be like way more sophisticated with a weapon because she is the daughter of Ares.
Yes.
You know, like I think like it's the kind of thing where you're like, okay, like Percy has all this, boat stuff going on, this like ocean, like everybody's got their own little thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she should be like randomly super, super like capable and dexterous with a weapon that nobody else is on. I do think that is like, that does like do a lot for her character.
Mm-hmm. I overall just want to say that for the most part, Annabeth and Percy are kind of just who they are, no matter the circumstance, right? They're just themselves in the scene. They don't have a lot of different personalities, except for when Annabeth is trying really hard to be normal, which she kind of gives up doing in the second episode, and we don't see that again. But Clarisse has these several different layers that we are seeing this season because she is a different person around different groups of people. And we have the like super vulnerable little girl Clarisse when it's just her alone. And then we have like Captain intimidating Clarisse. And then we have, which is kind of the like, I'm the big like bad daughter of Ares marching onto the beach. I just blew up your lifeboat. And then we cut to them in the belly of the ironclad and it's giving cousin Clarisse, who's like, give me your sandwich, you little bitch. Like like that makes her my prey. They're having this argument and then all of a sudden it's like siblings fighting between Percy and Clarisse. And isn't that being a girl? Is having multiple personalities to deal with different people and only being vulnerable when you're alone. It's very rich for me. And I really enjoyed seeing her switch between all of her different modes of existing. And I really love the dialogue in this scene between Annabeth, Clarisse, and Percy as they're strategizing.
We're in the belly of the ironclad. The figures are out and on the table for us to play around with as we're picking what we're going to do. And this is when we get the Scylla and Charybdis set up with figures. Did you want to say something about those, Erica?
I do want to say something about this. Fun fact, this map, these figures, this is a Mythomagic set. I don't know if you can really tell unless you are like really zooming enhancing, but they're using a Mythomagic map like from the game as the map for their quest, which is excellent because they're kids.
Yeah.
Also, did Ares like leave a Mythomagic set in the hull of the Ironclad?
Did Clarisse bring it with her for instructional purposes?
She'd bring it because she thought it'd be useful. I think that's such a fun thing to ruminate on.
A lot of great childish bits here. We also have Percy never being able to correctly pronounce Charybdis and kind of
that's
not
brilliant.
trying. That's really old
writing.
School book stuff.
We get the very important line about how this is a trial about making hard choices, who to sacrifice to win the battle. That should be easy for you, Clarisse. Ooh, yikes, it's not. And she says, I'll let you know what I decide. Oh, and then this very intense Percabeth line where Annabeth says, how do you know it's the right choice? As in choosing Scylla. How do you know Scylla is the right choice? And Percy says, honestly, because it's yours. And we had to ask Leah about this, so roll the tape.
I think it could go two ways. I think honestly she is a little bit relieved that he is trusting her again after she was just like, I can't tell you this, this and that and stuff, and you can't know. So, and we're all like, don't keep any secrets from each other, basically. And I think that she felt a little bit relieved, but also at the same time, I think she feels more pressure because what if her option isn't right? Like, in the first season, he was like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? And she was like, there is some things that I don't know, you know? So
he does that a lot. He just, like, puts some big, like thing that needs to be answered on her shoulders all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's... Exactly. So it's kind of funny to come back to that. And she's kind of relieved, like, okay, like, he trusts me. But at the same time, it's like, what if I'm generally not right? And I think that that's one thing that she kind of worries about in that moment, too, when he's like, honestly, because it's yours. And she's like, great. Yeah. He's like, thanks, guys.
She's adding more pressure to Kyle.
She's like,
weight on the shoulders.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
One last thing on this scene before the flashback. I think among the several monitors that we have running this season, one of them is the Odysseus monitor, because this is, of course, kind of a reworking of the Odyssey, kinda. Annabeth invokes him here. Of course, Odysseus made the Scylla choice. And that's sort of, interestingly, like, in most of the books, when we have these sort of parallel hero figures that are hanging over the text, in most of the situations, it is for Percy to learn who to not be. Famously, Titan's Curse, Hercules is looming over as the bad example that we are correcting Percy against. Last Olympian, famously, Achilles is looming over the story as the bad example of who you don't want to be, Percy Jackson specifically. We didn't really have that for Odysseus. It's like based on his story, but there's no individual person in the book who is saying, Percy, don't be like him, right? Like, you don't cheat on your wife who's waiting for you at home or something, right? Those parallels are maybe less clear. I feel like what the show is giving us actually is that Annabeth is our character here who needs to learn to not be like Odysseus, starting from a place of being a lot like Odysseus. And these are the moments where, like, she's using him as a citation, not just to say he did this, but to say, Clarisse, the choice is obvious. You need to get 6 people killed because it's what Odysseus would do. My ruthless tactician, forefather king, we're going to do that. That should be reasoning enough for you, sort of. She doesn't say that, but that's the, like, implication, right? That, like, it's a forceful citation that we're all supposed to follow the example of. And I feel, hopefully, there's some whispers about this that we are going to be giving that old man a good shakedown before the end of the season. That we're not just going to be letting Odysseus coast on his easy breezy reputation without asking some follow-up questions about the various misdeeds that he's done. So Christopher Nolan, watch out. Your gig is not safe.
KYLE PRUE, thoughts on Odysseus?
Thoughts on Odysseus. Endorse. Big fan. Everything he ever did. Love it all. Love it all. Even after reading Circe, doubling down on Odysseus.
Check out our Circe episodes featuring Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, like, Odysseus is, like, an interesting kind of parallel for Annabeth.
Mhm,
I like
mhm.
this kind of idea that it's like, don't be like the heroes of old. I feel like so much of Percy Jackson is kind of about overcoming the tradition or like hero worship. It's so clear that, like, Annabeth is trying to keep Percy on the outside. Like, she keeps trying to put distance in, and he keeps being like, I believe it because it's your idea. And she's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think, like,
He does not believe in the distance.
she wants to be somebody. Yeah, like, I mean, like, she wants to be somebody like Odysseus who could, like, lie to your face and leave you on an island.
Yes. Yeah,
I
make
think,
the hard
like,
choices. The
she-
selfish choices.
She doesn't have in her what he had. There's a part of him that is so, like, thoroughly broken and empty. Like, I think there is a part of him that that has the ability to betray the people who trust him, and, you know, like, he would do anything to get what he wants. And I think Annabeth is kind of putting on airs that could also be her, but it just isn't. And so I think, like,
Yeah.
that's something that I kind of read in like all these conversations with Percy and Annabeth through this episode, is that he's like, he's just like kind of
Yes.
like being sweet and cute, and she's like, you, like, stop.
And that'll be great setup for next episode when we see both Circe and the Sirens, and we have multiple opportunities to A, compare Annabeth to Odysseus, and B, leave Percy stuck somewhere and go off and get the glory by ourselves.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see Annabeth like struggling with her trauma and like the weight of decisions, and at the same time be like, Scylla. Like she says to
Yes.
Clarisse, it's Scylla. Like there's no doubt in her mind. And she does have doubt when she asks Percy, like, how do you know it's the right choice? But she like still, like, as far as like her position as a battle strategist is still very firm in the decision, like, I'm doing what Odysseus did. She's not quite at that place yet of questioning. Like we said, she's still working through the trauma before she gets to the like really re-questioning what she knows.
But isn't this
phase.
a little bit like known and like I do like I understand all that, but like isn't it just like what they say in the Odyssey
I
is
agree.
that like there really is only one choice.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yes.
Charybdis will like suck
What
you up
Madeline
and
Miller
kill
says, too.
everybody. Yeah, like I feel like every retelling of the Odyssey is that, like Circe tells him, you gotta go the Scylla way.
Yeah.
It is the consensus of the field. The meta
Yeah.
literature certainly dominant finding.
This episode also does prove that old knowledge to be inherently correct.
Mhm.
Clarisse hops on that, Gatling gun and doesn't even put a dent in the side of Charybdis's, little whatever those
Maw.
are, little maw. Yeah.
Tonsils.
Tonsils.
I keep coming back to this trial is about hard choices, who to sacrifice to win the battle. At the end of the last episode, 203, we were comparing this conversation where Luke is willing to sacrifice mortals and potentially the lives of campers who aren't willing to join his cause.
Mhm.
But Annabeth and Percy, or like rather the side of the Olympian gods, is willing to continue to sacrifice monsters, mythics, people who dust. Like the idea that Annabeth in this moment is like, I'm going to kill all these ghosts because they dust. And then also, you're going to sacrifice your 6 undead crew. Like, of course, that's the side that they're on because they don't think of these other creatures as anything other than like fodder, cannon fodder. And
Is this a book? I'm wondering if this is just a book thing. Is this also in the show? If you dust, you reform in Tartarus, right? And you come back.
I think that the implications for these, we don't see these guys dust in the books. I think the implication is that they go back to the fields of Asphodel where Ares grabbed them after they
Right,
die.
right. Which is why, like somebody said earlier, it is a little interesting that when they get stabbed, they dust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't feel like we can ask too many questions about that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
we can ask questions about it, but I do think that it is continuing to elaborate on the world.
Yeah.
Grover has a line in this episode where he literally says, our world is more than just like gods and monsters. There are
Yes.
satyrs, the entire natural world, and then we have these undead that are dusting. We have the monsters, the children of the gods line. In the previous episode, we're trying to really get a full picture of what the entire mythological world looks like, which if you listen to our episode last week with Tamara Becker Wilkinson, the writer of 203, we kind of came to this conclusion about how the choice between the Titans and the Olympians, it is a false binary. Like
Yeah.
I think that we operate through these books thinking that there's only a choice between preserving Olympus or raising it, and that Percy kind of chooses in the end to side with the Olympians. And I think that the only way that this series is going to come to a satisfying conclusion is if we discover that there's a million other choices.
Mhm.
It's not just one side or the other. There's all of the undead, there's all of these nature spirits, there's the hunters of Artemis, and like these different groups of people who are at play in this like fully realized spherical world. It's not just a seesaw.
Yeah.
And all of this language, I think, is contributing to that idea.
Yeah. Is that our cue to go back into the next flashback where Grover has shown up? We've been sort of talking through several of the different flashbacks, but it's worth noting that roughly at this point in the episode, around the middle, we get a flashback where Grover is sort of presenting the Camp Half-Blood option to the three of them. Right? Mostly, this is where we get this speech about how there's these other forms of life. It's not just gods and monsters. But, okay, well, side note, it's where he mentions Hippocampia for the first time because we're about to see Rainbow for the first time.
Rainbow!
We love Rainbow. The core actual reveal of this is, of course, that Luke and Thalia don't want to go and that this isn't news to them. That this time on the run has not been in pursuit of camp, but to try to live away from it, creating a third separate path. I unfortunately cannot stop thinking about when Luke, with the bang, curly bang, says the phrase cult half-blood.
So good.
Can't wake up!
Wake me up inside! It's 9 in the afternoon! I'm doing it Black Parade.
It really stirred my spirit to see this, like, aggressive, egregious, unapologetic ode to what it was like to have a bang at that point in time. Let's say probably
Yeah.
this is like in the early 2010s, now that we've shifted all the timelines a little bit.
Colt Haplet is so good, I'm gonna need it on a shirt with like
Yes.
some kind of like cutout image of the Kevin Jonas bang.
It's a funny line, but the reason why he's saying it is actually like very important as a setup for Luke and Thalia's motivations and getting us all on the same page about what her actual thoughts, traumas, etc. are. But also, this is how we get May to enter the story. That's May Castellan, Luke's mom. We have a clip of Charlie, I believe, discussing this line, right? Where Thalia says, Luke and your camp have history, and I don't want anything to do with my father's world. We were basically asking, what is the history? Is it your mom? Isn't that what you verbatim asked?
We have a flashback question for you.
Oh, yeah.
So you know how Thalia says, Luke and your camp have history. What is that history, and is it your mom?
It is. It is.
Woo! That was a good question.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, my mom, she went there. She tried to become the Oracle of Delphi, and then
So you're like,
It
you
was
grew up with
cursed.
that knowledge, and you
I
still
have
go
that
to Colt
knowledge.
Half-Blood.
Colt
Half-Blood, exactly.
Half-Blood.
Yeah, that's where it all
a good
began.
name
That's
for
where it
it.
all began, you know, and then Hermes took off soon after that.
Is that not
So
a line in the show?
Colt
He
Half-Blood,
literally
it
says
is.
This is great. This is the second part of the setup from episode 1, where we find out that Sally Jackson is a seer, giving us more of that two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
quite literally, between Percy and Luke.
They both had magical, ultra woke moms.
Magical, empathetic, ultra woke moms. But the thing that ultimately leads Thalia to choose to go to camp is the fact that Annabeth is in danger, and that she realizes as a mom in this little nuclear family dynamic that it is her responsibility to protect Annabeth. It's this very maternal thing because she's willing to be on the run herself. She's willing for her and Luke to be in danger, but she cannot willingly put this little girl in danger, especially not when she was a little girl who her mother put in danger, right? It's generational trauma,
Yeah.
women's trauma. She said, I will not repeat the mistakes of my mother. Even if we don't like it, we're going to camp. I'm going to take this little girl. And she says, and if anybody, I got to get the exact quote because I feel like this is deeply important.
It's a setup. It has to be a setup.
If anyone tries to hurt this little girl, they'll have me to answer to. My ears went ding, 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 ding. Not only is this obviously why she sacrifices herself and is turned into a tree, but in the overarching Erica obsession with how are we going to make sure that Thalia takes herself out of the equation at the end of the Titan's Curse, I feel like if anyone tries to hurt this little girl, they'll have me to answer to. Either Luke at the end of season 3 is going to somehow like threaten Annabeth's life, more so than the whole holding up the weight of the world. There's going to be some kind of Luke violence done unto Annabeth that causes Thalia to absolutely lash out against Luke and then choose the hunters. Or Thalia is going to do some kind of violence against Annabeth that causes herself to freak out and remove herself from the equation. That like she is going to get so close to siding with Luke, but then because of that, does some kind of emotional, physical, psychic damage on Annabeth and then realize I cannot do this. This is exactly why I sacrificed myself in the first place. I'm taking myself off the chessboard and I'm
Strongly
going with
team
the hunters.
option 2 for many reasons, but probably an important one that we should, not to lore police it, but a part of Luke's whole psychic break when he's fully 100% in Chronos control, about to like burn off as human form so that Chronos can reascend, is the trauma of watching himself through Chronos like hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could come up with something else for that, but that is supposed to be such an impactful moment because even through the Titan's Curse, where she is kidnapped and forced to hold up the weight of sky and all of these things, Luke never actually lays a finger on her until that final scene. So I would like to see it from Thalia. I think that would be very interesting for a number of reasons. And I'm glad that we picked up on that because it is clearly a setup.
Yeah, because then for me that is satisfying because if it's Thalia pushing it too far, putting Annabeth in danger at the end of season 3 and choosing the hunters, then it goes back to trauma.
Yes.
It returns back to women's generational trauma.
Women's
and the
generational
reason
trauma.
why she chooses the hunters is essentially what her mother did to her.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what Zeus did to her mom, which goes back to it's Zeus's fault.
Yeah.
Which is all very satisfying to me. That was the big thing I wanted to talk about this episode that I was like itching to get off of my chest this entire time. And other than that, I think there's just like a couple big things, like Percy getting his nautical powers. I think is so cute that like in this very female-centric women's trauma episode, we threw Percy a little bone and we were like, hey, your dad loves you and you know where you are now. And it was like such a cute, really magical, poetic moment where Percy is standing literally at the wheel of the ship and
Yeah.
saying, I know where I am now.
Little smile, huge wide shot. Great.
And I'm like, that's so great for you, Percy. You know who doesn't know where the hell they are?
Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else
Yeah.
is freaking out. We don't know
Yeah.
where we are. Hope you enjoy that.
This episode really is a fine metaphor for what it's like to be a teenage boy. You know, because like all the women are going through stuff you could never even possibly comprehend.
Possibly imagine.
And you're like, what's going on with you? And you're like, I think I'm getting into boating. You know,
I
like,
just like have a good relationship with my dad, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. You're like, I'm just really getting into hanging out with my dad, honestly. Like there is like such an element of nuanced, complicated, traumatic kind of unpacking happening for all the women, and Percy just being like, I believe in you because I think you're great. And they're like, get out of my room.
Like, go back to fishing. Also, great setup for what I assume is going to be Tyson receiving powers just in time to locate Percy and Annabeth, right?
Yeah.
Percy's like, you're going to get your powers later when you most need them to be able to understand where you are physically. Or Tyson is going to get a big fancy trident, because we see a trident protecting Percy at the very end in that Camp Half-Blood battle in the teasers. And that kind of just leaves what shall historically henceforth be known as the unhinged PB&J scene in the hull of the Ironclad.
We all felt like the making of the sandwiches was weird looking, right? Is that wrong?
He's doing it in a humorous way.
Like there's a setup of it, which is giving bartender, right? Where he's standing up at a table where she's sort of like lounging and sort of throwing her problems at him as he's preparing a food item. But literally, I'm talking about like the fine motor skills, like the way that he's applying the condiments to the bread. I was like, I cannot name why this looks so strange to me. But it does. Not in a bad way.
It also is funny at the end of that scene, or like immediately when they have to cut back to Percy, they go into a close-up, shoulders up, and it's definitely because they don't want to reset the continuity on whatever the he's doing with that sandwich. When he's making the sandwich, I was like, they're going to cut in because there's no shot. They're going to try and keep like whatever he's doing right there consistent between takes. And yes, right when they go back to him, it's like here, so you can't see that he's just destroying this sandwich setup.
It is funny because he scoops the jelly out with a spoon, and then he gently taps the jelly contents of the spoon into the middle of the bread, and then I can only assume like uses the back of the spoon to pat the jelly further into the bread. It's funny.
It's like very gingerly, right? Is that what is maybe unusual about it? That he looks like he's trying to be very precise about this peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
I think that he's trying to seem cool and collected so he can be like cool bartender advice to Clarisse. But the sandwich is getting in the way of that, is my take on the scene. And it's sweet. I love this scene. This is a scene that I could foresee acting majors doing for years to come. High school theater kids, like the PB&J scene where Clarisse is going through the worst moment of her life and Percy is like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I've gotten really into boating lately.
Yeah,
everything's going to be fine.
He said, hey, have you considered living on island time?
Prophecies suck, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you just lean on your friends.
The crux of it is prophecies suck, and like, it's okay to trash talk your dad to me because I already hate him. Which she doesn't quite get there, but almost, you know? I think she made some progress.
It's such a well-written scene. Every single beat, the way that he uses humor to take her walls down a little bit. After he says that your dad body checked me, she lets out a soft exhale and is able to sort of vent a little bit. You know, like she says the true statement, like her father cares about victory. She has to make him proud. And he gets her to deliver the full prophecy to him, which is probably his, you know, I would think like, oh, walk into that scene, your objective is get the prophecy out of Clarisse. And then as soon as he gets that prophecy, he's like, ooh, yikes. That's not so bad. And as always in the show, we don't have time to keep going because there's shit we have to do. And Mitch from Blockbuster comes and gets her.
Yeah,
but she is like almost in tears at the end of this scene.
Yeah.
And then it's the epic final set piece, which is just so stunning So well structured, the stunts, the gun at the what is that thing called?
The Gatling gun?
The Gatling gun?
Or or like a chain gun or something. But yeah, it's like it is crazy how much better this looks than the stuff last season looked.
Yeah. I think you can definitely tell that they built the top of the ship, right?
Yeah.
That like all of that like those scenes specifically of Percy and Annabeth struggling to just walk around on the top as it's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, realness.
If the stars align, fingers crossed, we'll be getting the props department onto the podcast towards the end of the season. But something that Dean wrote about this scene, I think he was props master on season 1 and assistant props for season 2. He said, that is a real World War II Bofors gun that Clarisse is firing behind Percy on the Ironclad. My NDA will not allow the complete story of that gun's journey to filming, except it started months before I started with a phone call from set director Hamish Purdy. He found it and continued for months to get to the filming days. The work of Hamish, property master Michelle Hendricks, and 2 construction Johnny's D and K, Joel and FX, Eric VFX, and I, to pull it all together was seamless, and to see it working in the trailer made me pause and say, holy moly, that looks amazing. We did great work together in season 1, but season 2, fasten your chin straps, fans. We took it to another level.
I agree. Tom Cruise dead in a ditch. He could never. The way that she screams as she's turning that gun.
It looks so good.
Tom Cruise as Clarisse would have been really, really powerful, I think.
I don't think he has the juice. He doesn't have enough diaphragm to get that done.
Maybe it's Dior as Mission Impossible.
Maybe Dior as Ethan Hunt in whatever, the next 30 of those that they do.
Definitely. Kyle, when you saw this, I know Carter and I watched this together for the first time, so I know how Carter felt. But when you saw this, when the cyclone occurred, were you like, what? Did you feel shock in your heart when the ship starts to go up into the sky?
Oh, yeah. I was like, okay, that's not how I remember it going in the Odyssey. It's a little, I was like, all right, word. This is crazy. Like full of shock. I love Percy being like, maybe I can steer the boat with my powers or whatever. And it's like, it's only
Divine
season 2.
surfing.
It's only season 2, big dog. I don't think so. I don't think you got the juice for that yet.
I also like this is also true to the story of the book, that even though this feels in the moment like a big failure and a big screw up, that it is how fate was meant to play out, because none of this would have happened if Clarisse hadn't had found her friends. The fact that she sort of abandons her post at the artillery to go save Annabeth, prioritizing her friends. None of this would have happened if they hadn't had linked back up. It's all meant to be this way. And it was nice to see Clarisse go and save Annabeth. That's who she is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
She's not alone. She's not as alone as she thinks she is, at least.
And watching her also, this is the scene where Clarisse's whole action, the reason why all of this is happening is because she fails to commit to the skill a bit. She says she's going to do it.
Yeah, and she can't.
But she makes eye contact with that one French guy right before he gets got. And she can't do it. She can't do it after 3 or 4 of them have already been got. Scylla only gets 6, right? She's doing all this because she's like, I can't watch the last 2 get gobbled up, and instead we're gonna destroy the ship. And I love that journey for her.
Yeah, what interesting layers that puts onto the future question of who are we sacrificing to win the battle, right? Who is going to go as we flip-flop between sides and ask ourselves what the best option is between, next season, listen, how many people are about to die? At least 2. We're gonna lose some people.
She feels by the end of this episode, don't you think, that she has a different conception about what sacrifices are okay to make than Annabeth and Percy and Luke? She feels like a genuinely different alternative model that Percy can think through and turn to about, especially when we're developing the whole fatal flaw things. Watch the concept of somebody being like, I will not allow this to happen to anybody. All or nothing. We're going to turn the ship around to save 2 undead soldiers who I made a promise to.
Yeah. It is so funny that it's out of all of the people in this episode, it's Clarisse who is the one who is not willing to hurt anyone.
To sacrifice people who are already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they are already dead. At the end of the day, they're already dead. My only thought about the end of this episode, which is just I almost wish Annabeth was at the top of the ship at the final shot. Like, I understand that it's Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Even if in Brazil, it's Annabeth Chase and the Olympians. I think that it would be nice.
It's her episode.
It's her episode. It's her trauma. You know, if she was at the top of the ship as everything was falling apart around her, I think that would also be a very evocative image, you know, specifically for her journey and her ship that's falling apart in this moment.
And that's Odyssean as well. Like
Yes.
the idea of
Yes.
losing your ship, you know, because of your failure.
How'd you feel about Clarisse getting got? Like that like single column of wind, basically as soon as the canister of winds opens, just basically like boom, first vortex out.
Yeah, they said see you in another episode. Yeah, she got
Okay,
booted
girl.
2 episodes into the future.
Yeah. That's pretty much that episode. Oh, what a good time. You can hear the entirety of our press junket interviews now that episode 204 is out. They'll be on Spotify, YouTube, etc. We'll have the videos posted, which leaves us one final question. We need to come up with our Noti Award nominations for this episode. Standout moments, things you loved. Anybody have any thoughts? As always, I haven't thought of mine yet, so somebody else go first.
I would like to do the I Can Fix Him Noti Award, which is not exactly right, but goes to the moment that I think I'm probably still thinking about the most, other than the slow destruction of the ship plank by plank in VFX Cyclone. I'm talking about when Annabeth is talking through her childhood trauma with Thalia and blaming herself for her death, and the moment in which she transfers essentially that whole trauma onto Percy. Again, this is a construction of the writer's room. This is new territory for us. I feel like we need to give Annabeth some moments of girlhood type of mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Some of these mistakes are like true singular trauma type of mistakes. This is a little bit of that, but it is also, I think, the combination of like my like older sister mom died in this horrible way that I'm still coming to terms with, and also it feels like there's just enough of that good old fashioned I can fix him. This boy is my project, and I will figure out how to get him through stuff. Obviously, that is not where we're gonna have them end up. This is not a sustainable equilibrium for her, but I love to see it. I love to name it. I love watching her work through this sort of more explicitly thing that is such a like generally poorly examined trope of girl who is not quite the protagonist in media that is not for like elderly people, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's the I Can Fix Him Noti Award nomination.
Yes.
Understood. Yeah. Understood. Kyle?
I feel like I got to give mine to the bang, the bang of youth.
Wake me up inside. The bang
Bang's
of youth.
Of youth, Kevin.
My other thought was perhaps the the Unbothered King Award for Percy. I love that like people keep coming to him with their worries. Yeah, maybe it's like the Jimmy Buffett Award for for
the best escape to Margaritaville.
Yeah, the best escape to Margaritaville, which is Percy Jackson. People keep coming to him and being like, I'm so worried about blank. And his role in every scene he's in this episode is to be like, don't worry about it. Like, that's with Tyson, that's with Annabeth, that's with Clarisse. It's like, it's going to be fine.
His response to Annabeth unloading her entire personal trauma, like, presumably, like, we are assuming that she's told all the stories of all the flashbacks to him in this moment that culminates the final flashback. And his response is, quote, maybe all we can do is the right thing and hope for the best. In a way, that's profound. In another way, that's just vibes.
That's exactly what my dad would say. It's exactly what my dad would say and has said on many occasions. This is the Disney Plus version of do your best and leave the rest to God, which is exactly what my father would say. Who will also, I would give the Jimmy Buffett Award to Best Escape to Margaritaville to Marquito.
Percy Jackson a little bit has like Christian teen energy.
100 in this episode, he's giving
like
youth
group.
Youth
pastor.
Youth pastor. Yeah, I low-key feel bad that we didn't talk more about It Only Took Me 2 Days to See How Special You Are, but the good news is that we're doing an entire episode with Shae Worthy, who wrote this episode, so I think we will be able to converse more deeply about that. So I'm not going to give my award to that. I'm going to give my Noti Award to most women's generational trauma for, we may not like it, but that's where we're going.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yes.
Kyle, Tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Find me at KYLE PRUE on all social platforms. Watch my web show Rabbit on YouTube. You can find that by searching my name. But yeah, you know, I'm all over the place doing all kinds of stuff. Get How to Piss Off Men wherever you buy books.
Wherever you buy books.
Wherever you buy them.
You need a last-minute holiday gift.
Yes. My brother is in an MFA program with a girl whose boyfriend broke up with her because she gave it to him as a gift for his birthday.
How does it feel to have such an undeniable impact?
Yeah, I
on the
said, you
world?
know, that as advertised, the book is working correctly. If you are in a relationship that's on its last legs and you just want to drive it home, buy How to Piss Off Men for your man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kyle. Thank you all for joining us. We can't wait for the sirens next week. See you here, same time. Join our Patreon. Blah, blah, blah. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.